Karen, are you ready? Okay, let's do it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independence City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. It's 6:30 on a very beautiful, warmest day so far of the year outside, and the sun's up. Let the record show that council is all here, and we have minutes from March 8th in your packet. And do they meet with your approval? Don't all
Move to approve.
Thank you. Motion?
Second.
I have a second by Councilor Jobe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have a lot of work to do tonight, so we're moving promptly forward. Visitor public comment. I don't see anybody rushing the microphone. We're moving forward. Okay, under reports, I have a little bit of an extensive report to give tonight. As many of you may know that recently our Public Works Director and myself, along with the City Manager of Monmouth and their Public Works Director, we had ODOT come here for a pavement tour. We took them up on Highway 51, which is, you remember, Main Street, Monmouth Street, and then Main Street into Monmouth. It's a state highway, and we're not allowed to work on it even when there are potholes. We took them around and let them see what the issues were. We got out, we pointed, we talked to them. They let us know that freeways in Oregon are the A priority. Places like Highway 22 are a B priority. Roads like Highway 51 through Independence and Monmouth are C priorities. They could see our need. They were going to work to try to get funds allocated to take care of some of our issues. They have been putting some cold patches in during the wintertime, but until it gets to about May or June, they can't really do long-term effective patching. So we've raised the awareness. Public Works folks have let them know, and we're rattling their cage appropriately. So we are hopeful. On a legislative front, some good things happened. The legislature approved the funding for a rural Polk County homeless effort for $1 million for us, for the cities and the county working together on rural homelessness. There were 7 other similar grants made from around the state. And so the partners will be getting together before our next council meeting and figuring out exactly how to move forward with the county and the cities working together. This was a partnership that is unique in the state. So many entities all working together, dealing with rural issues as opposed to urban. I also want to let you know, because of the hard work of staff at all levels here in the city, we were able to secure $2 million through a legislative appropriation for the 9th Street lift station, which will help our sewer efforts. And specifically, a big thanks to Representative Evans and Senator Patterson for making sure that that was included in a piece of legislation. It was a 100-page bill, and we had 3 lines. And but we're really excited about that, and staff and others, we're continuing to work on leveraging those gifts to work on infrastructure in our community, sewer, water, transportation. So we're hopeful for the future, but we really appreciate the support that's happened. I'm reading my list here. Upcoming, to keep you informed, you know that healthcare is an issue in our area. West Valley Hospital is beginning a listening tour regarding healthcare in our area, and I know the chief and I are both going to be participating. I know some other folks in the community are going to be talking about that. This is the opening of conversations about healthcare in Polk County, because we know that we are in a bit of a healthcare desert. The U.S. Department of Commerce, the Economic Development Administration, is coming to visit here in Independence. They're all about supporting business and workforce in our community. They've helped us a little bit in the past. There are lots of opportunities, and so we're working with them because Congress has sent them some additional funds, and we're hoping to get a hunk of that. Coming up this Saturday, U.S. Senator Merkley is hosting a virtual town hall meeting Saturday from 2 to 3. I'm going to give Karen the information. She can put it on the website for us, but it is a virtual town meeting, and the public is invited to attend. And finally, I did want to let you know that a number of meetings ago, we had a representative of the Deaf Blind Institute come and speak to us. I had the chance to go see the institute in action that's taking place in the event center down below. Fascinating. Pro-tactile, I think it's called. People communicating. Groups of people get together in 5 or 6, and that's how the training happens, and everybody's touching, which is a really kind of different thing. You know, a lot of times we're told not to do a lot of touching. This is about touching. And so when people are communicating by sign language, you can be touching on your arm, and squeezing means yes, or laughter. I learned a few things. Laughter that's laughter. And so it was very interesting, and I did want to tell you that they are so impressed they love having the Institute here in Independence. This is a 5-year project. They'll be back regularly. There are people from all over the United States here, and they're staying over at the hotel. They walk over here. They have just gotten a wonderful reception from our community and our business community. People have really gone out of their way, and I think many of you received the instructions on how to deal with the deaf blind. I think Karen sent that out. It's fascinating. They love our community. Some folks are talking about, well, hey, Ohio's cold. It's nice here, and everybody is decent. Maybe I got to move here. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know it was a real, it was an eye-opening experience. I learned a lot. So I just wanted to follow up on that. With that, I'll be quiet and turn it over to Councillor Takis to give us a MINET report. Councillor Takis.
Yeah, so I think it's actually been a while since I've given a MINET report. So some of this news you probably have heard a lot of it. But at our last board meeting, we did set the budget calendars very similar to both cities' budget calendar. So we're going to be in that season coming up soon. The search for general manager is still going on. We're having a meeting this Thursday at 4:30, a virtual meeting. Hopefully I'll get an update on that project. But of course the big news that I think most of you heard is that MINET got some grants from Polk County through the Arbor funds to do some expansion work. They got $300,000 to go to expand into the Rick Real Cloud Corner area, $1 million to Southwest Dallas, and another $20,000 to do a feasibility study in Fall City. So that's all kind of exciting.
Good stuff.
I have a question. Is that enough money to complete those projects?
Yes, it is. It's within their proposal that they gave them, so yes. There is some contingency. It is actually supposed to be completed within 6 months, but there's a contingency that we can actually get contractors to work, with the contractor schedules, and also the supply chain, if that doesn't cause problems with it, but yeah.
Great. Councillor Jobe, I think it's Parks and Recreation for you.
Yes, so we have Arbor Day coming up, April 29th. I think the mayor's going to be making an announcement at the end of the year for that.
Okay.
Is that how that works?
Okay, sure. Yes.
I was a little confused, but maybe Patrick can fill us in on that. We're continuing to talk about a community garden and the possibility of having something like that in Independence, as well as working on the heritage trees and park naming. That's about it.
Great. Thank you very much. Councillor Martin Willis, Planning Commission.
Absolutely. As people should be aware from previous reports, Planning Commission has been working a lot on zoning and also our rules and regulations around that. Help me out. Give me a word. Thank you. Okay, it's been a really long day. So yes, on our city code, and have been taking a look most recently at our zoning maps and overlays, and have found some discrepancies, and are now looking into hopefully recommending some changes to come to us eventually. So they've been busy and doing good things.
Yay. Thank you. Interim City Manager Mason. Chief.
Mayor, Mayor, Council. Brief report tonight. So I'll start off with, I met with Josh Brandt from Brandt Sanitary. And because our population has now officially gone over 10,000 in the PSU numbers, we are going to have some additional required elements of services. And Brandt's is going to be coming to both the cities and try to get us to work together on those. I just wanted to put that out as a teaser. So the kinds of things I'm talking about could be different types of educational programs for people about how to recycle. It could be additional services like additional pickups and yard debris. There's a very large list that's in an Oregon administrative rule, and it basically says you have to take a certain number of items off the list. So just a thing to be aware of, and it will be coming back, but that way, you know, as you're living your daily lives, you can maybe think, oh, you know, it would be really nice, and we'll look and see if it's one of the things on the list. Our digital-only platform of the River City Briefs came out on Friday for the first time. I shouldn't say digital-only. We do still have printed versions of our newsletter at the library and the museum. But the new rollout is every other Friday it's going to come out. So we're going to now get more timely news, and it's going to be primarily digital, going directly to the people. Links will work, all of those sorts of things. So any questions on that? Everybody get a chance to see the new newsletter?
Looks good.
All right,
Yes.
good. Vertical housing zone. We talked briefly about this last meeting, and there was a question that was brought up as to whether or not Monmouth had a vertical housing zone. And I did inquire and found out they do not. And so just to follow up, we will be coming back in either our late April or early May meeting with a work session to talk through vertical housing zone with council at greater depth. And the last thing I have on my list, I just wrote actually, and that was the mayor talked about how, you know, we got this legislative funding for $2 million for a lift station, and he often gives a lot of that credit to staff. But I will tell you that I asked the mayor to make a whole lot of appointments with a whole lot of people to really talk up Independence and our need and what we're doing with funding. And so, Mayor, I'd say good job. Your roadshow seems to be working. People are noticing, and that's what we really needed, and that's what we were after. So, you know, keep up the good work. You've got to be running out here soon of the list, but I know it's been a lot of visits, and I know staff does join you. Sean, I won't leave you out. Sean has been on all of those visits, and there's prep work involved. Every visit is some different focus, and so between Sean and the grant coordinator that you all employed for 2 years, Marshall, they work together to get all of that back work done and have the right presentation and the right facts and details ready for each one of those visits. But then it actually has to happen, and you have to take them around and show them all the things. So good job, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any questions for me?
Okay, thank you very much. Patrick Bodley, our Community Services Director on Youth Recreation Grants. Good evening and welcome.
I got handouts.
Thank you.
Yeah, there will be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I do want to point out that this is 100% a draft. Please pay no attention to the typo in the very first sentence on the page before you. That will be residing within, not within. There. So basically what I had prepared is, I believe it was 4 weeks ago, after our Arbor work session, it seemed like there was a lot of agreement in the room on where we wanted to go forward with this, with the youth rec grant. And so pretty much this is just prettying up the things that were discussed that way, and then giving you the update on where we're at right now. So what we've got is, do we have that thing? Okay, so Karen's going to put kind of some bullets on the screen so you don't have to look at me.
Thank you.
But basically what it is, so we've got $75,000 total in grants between the cities of Independence and the city of Monmouth, 50,000 from us and 25,000 from them, that we will make available to nonprofits, nonprofit organizations throughout. The discussion, we kind of landed on 15,000 as a max award for each applicant. And that is with a 10% match on top of that. So they could get up to 15,000 and then match their 1,500 to make it a 16.5. I'm the library guy, not the math guy. And so anyway, and it also wanted to highlight that any unspent funds that we pass out to people would need to be returned to the city that way. So what you do have in front of you is the grant announcement, and then the second page is kind of our draft of what the application would look like. There's a lot of conversation about not wanting to burden people with 7-page, 10-page grant applications. We're able to narrow it down to 2, and I'm happy to edit further if you all feel we need to. Basically, Section 1 and Section 2 are the reason why there's those 2 different sections of contact information is perhaps the person who's in charge of the organization is not the person who's going to be responsible for the grant, but that way we have both of those contact information right there. So based on, in large part of what you already saw, we clarified that they don't need to be students in this grant guideline, that they just need to reside in the district boundaries. That way people who are homeschooled or who are, the audience could be homeschool students or students who go to the charter schools, as long as they live here, that's who we were attending. And so our keen editors saw that and caught those there. As far as timeline goes, we anticipate opening this up on April 1st with a 15-day, 2-week window. So applications would close on the 15th. We would have our grant committee, a review committee, look over them over the next 2 weeks, and we would notify our grantees May 1st that they have been awarded these grants that way. Our grant committee is made up of, going to be made up of 5 people. 2 have already been named and given to me their names from Monmouth, and then 3 from ourselves. We're staying away from city staff as well as other people that way so that we can keep it I guess, what's the right word I'm looking for? Non-biased as far as the cities. I know everyone needs the money, and so I'm going to pick my favorites kind of thing, but we will lean heavily on, I believe, the boards, a member from the board or community members who want to be involved that way. As far as what we still need to do, we still need to finalize a grant agreement, so between Monmouth Independence and the grantees, which we need to take to the city attorney so that we can make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted that way. And then I anticipate getting with Gloria this week so that we can figure out the disbursement plan, whether it's 100% up front, 50% up front, and 50% 3 months down the road, whether it would vary based on their timeline. You know, if they're getting, if our grantees or the applicants are going to do this in July and we don't get a second disbursement out to them until November, just figuring out from her and what the rules with the ARPA are and how we can actually get that money to them that way. So that's what we still need to do. Lots of work done. Any questions on the grant or the application? Yes.
Any particular weight for Indy over Monmouth since we put in double the amount of money? Or is it just going to be one pot and we just go with just one pot? Okay. Second question, really a comment. Can we call it a 5-member resident panel? I don't want anybody who's on the documentation spectrum to not feel they're included in this. Thank you.
So if we have additional comments, I'm not precluding anything that Councilor may say, but so as we read this over in the next day or so, if we have additional thoughts to share with you, we can directly respond and make our suggestions, and staff will figure out how to make that happen. Is that correct?
Please do, yes.
Councilor Roden.
I just want to voice that I'm disappointed that we have chosen to limit this to $75,000. We had money that was supposed to be spent to provide economic or recovery from COVID for our youth, and I do not think this is enough. I do think we could look at that again. I also am a little disappointed that we're only giving one per organization when we should probably give one per program that they are looking at, and because I know like some of the organizations had many different projects that would benefit many different youths in different areas. So I think that just something that we need to look at too, and to limit it to only $15,000 per. When you looked at all the things that I submitted for the organizations that needed money, none of it was less than $15,000. So I'm not sure where the city came up with that money, but I really wish we have $250,000 of ARPA money that was supposed to go to economic recovery for our youth in our community, and to spend only $50,000 of it is disappointing.
And I absolutely understand where you're coming from. My understanding was that this was the first year go around, and that we would make the additional funds available next year so that this could be an ongoing project.
Yeah,
instead of
it's
a
still
single
not
year.
enough.
Okay.
Okay. So if we have any additional comments, we'll share them, and I know that this will go out soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. You might as well stay up at the dais there, because you're next. So you're speaking about amending library fees? The other piece of paper.
Thought I'd have a chance to go to my seat first. So,
Hey, we're moving.
as you all saw in reading through this at the last library board meeting, which was February 2022, the library board approved that motion to become a overdue fine-free library. I want to be very clear in my language that fines and fees are two different things. We are just looking to get rid of overdue fines. Replacement fees, damaged book fees, all of those fees would remain intact. And so basically what we have seen, what we are bringing forward to you is that motion from this library board to please let us make that be a real thing, and not just a pipe dream. This is kind of the way that libraries are heading across the country. Your Public recently has gone fine-free. Multnomah County here in Oregon, there's probably about 15 at last look libraries across the state of Oregon that are already fine-free, including Monmouth, which passed their fine-free resolution earlier this month, and Dallas earlier this year. So members of the public, obviously one card can go to any library in Polk, Yamhill, and Marion counties, and so this is just a way that we can make things easier on them, understanding if I check out an item from Independence currently and bring it into Monmouth, I would have a fine, even though I turned it into Monmouth. This is just a way to make things a little bit easier for everyone that way. And so, based on that, I ask you please to approve the motion before you to let the Independence Public Library become a fine-free library. Yes.
Go ahead.
I just had a comment. I think that library cards are a big deal for kids specifically. And I think they do introduce personal responsibility and, I don't know, just accountability. And so I'm going to vote no on this because I just feel like I think it's silly to me. But I think it's a good thing that you check out a book, you return the book. And, there's a timeline because other people want to check it out. So.
I absolutely understand the personal responsibility. The mission of the Independence Public Library is not to teach personal responsibility. I 100% believe that falls back on parents and caregivers to do that.
I agree with that.
And so that is one of
This is their card, like you get a card as a
Right.
kid and it's a big deal. You get to sign up, you get to go check out that book, you read the book, you return the book. I mean, it's something that we all went through. And I just feel like I don't know, I think it's good for kids.
I applaud this, Patrick. This is an equity issue. This is important. Nobody
Additional-
should be prevented from learning.
Additional, okay, let's go with questions first. I'm trying to structure. Any questions for Patrick at the moment?
I guess I have a question.
Question.
Haven't we kind of effectively done away with the fees? Because I get automatic renewal. I'm one of those people who reads 2 pages a night and falls asleep, so it takes me forever to get through a book. And I just got one today. I renewed my book. I didn't even have to do anything. So it seems like we've already kind of gone there.
Yeah, so in effect, and I tried to break this down very briefly in the fiscal impact statement of the right up there. But in 2019, the library collected about 10 times more in fines and fees than they did this year so far. Partly because the consortia as a whole, so Polk, Marion, Yamhill County Libraries, voted to create automatic renewals like you were talking about. And so what that means is if your book is overdue and there's not a hold on it, it is automatically renewed for you, extending that due date an extra 3 weeks until there is a hold. It would continue to work similarly, only instead of charging fines, it would just automatically be marked as lost after 6 weeks, or after the third renewal, still not being brought back. It would be, the item would be marked as lost that way. So in addition to that, since March of 2020, we've been checking things in fine-free anyway. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was because we were asking people to hold on to their items and not bring them back. We've still been quarantining items, and it was part of the fairness issue, I guess, if people have brought their book back, but it's still just sitting on the table going through the 24, 48-hour quarantine period, we didn't feel it was fair to charge people fines if they actually did bring it back on time. So we're still in effect fine-free currently.
Additional questions for the presenter at this point? Okay, I'm going to ask, this is dealing with fees. Is there any public comment on, since we're changing the fee, is there any public comment on fees? I don't see anybody rushing the microphone, so we have officially asked. So we can now have discussion on, there's a motion and we can have discussion. So what I would like, if that would be possible, is a motion, and then we can get into the discussion when we have the motion, please.
I move to adopt Resolution 22-1559, amending the city fee schedule related to library fees.
Second.
And I have a second by Coor. Discussion,
Yes.
please do.
I sat, as the liaison to the library board, I sat through the presentations on this and listened to much of the discussion about it. And one of the things that was brought to my attention was that the fees on library items impact the population who is most in need of having access to books. And that is, there are school libraries that can help teach responsibility with a library card. This needs to be something available to the public, and if it impedes people from coming to the library because they are afraid that they're going to have a fine and can't check anything else out, then we're interfering with the educational process as well. And I would like to argue in favor of passing this because it has a lot of logic behind it, and it is also a national movement.
Additional discussion.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I think that we're impeding the education of our citizens when we don't have books in the library readily available for people to use. When we don't have a fine system and incentive for people to return the books, books often stay out and are automatically renewed over and over and over again. As someone who has paid many, many fines over the year, I accept that and when I go in and I pay my fines. And then I also love how our Independence Library offers grace periods where you can bring in canned food and other certain objects and have your fines removed. So if you're disadvantaged, you can work that off in another way. But I feel like having responsibility in that matter is why I would vote no on this as well.
Additional discussion.
I worked in the library for 2 years, and I have seen the looks on parents' faces when they're told what their fines are, and they don't have a recourse. And I don't want to ever deny a child a book, period, regardless. I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you for keeping up with the current trend. It's a public library, should be open to the public, and everybody should be able to learn as much as they need or want to.
Additional
I
discussion.
have another question. So is there any kind of notification that, you've already been renewed 3 times, you really need to bring this book in? Is there any kind of pressure at all put on these
Yeah,
people?
so as I'm going to, since you are familiar with the overdue fine or overdue notice, so that same notice comes out. If there is an item, for example, that wasn't able to be renewed, just that email would, instead of saying this has been automatically renewed and here's your new due date, it says this is not able to be renewed and it's due on the due date still.
So going forward, what would that say? I mean, do you just say it's not renewed, you need to return it?
Exactly.
That's what it would say?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I thought you said it would be lost at that point.
Yeah, I had heard.
Could you
made the
clarify that?
Oh, yeah, so-
After 3 renewals, it's declared.
Yeah, so after
lost,
three
but-
after 3 renewals, the email says it is marked as lost, and you owe us the $5 processing fee, which we're not asking to get rid of, as well as the cost of the item. The way that our catalog works is that when we input a new item, we get to put what it cost us down. So it's really slick, and you scan the ISBN and it comes in magically. Science is great. But so after that 3rd renewal, or 21 days is currently how it works, after the last you can't renew this notification, might be clear. So if it's you can't renew it the first time, then 21 days after that it's marked as lost. If it's been renewed 3 times and you are up against no more automatic renewals, then it's 21 days after that notification that it is moved to lost.
So there are ultimate consequences.
Yes.
So, let me make sure I just understand it. So, if I do like Counselor Takis and fall asleep on after 2 pages, after a period of time, so there's no fines for the little, was it 25 cents or 50 cents a day, but if all of a sudden I don't take the book back, then I get hit with a $5 processing fee, and then I need to replace the cost of the book. Is that correct?
Whether it's, we assume it's lost,
Right,
but yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so we're only getting rid of the overdue fine, but a person would still be responsible one way or another for making sure that the piece of material is paid for, turned in, or replaced, however that's done. Is that correct?
Correct. We're just trying to get rid of the you brought it back to us, but it was late fines instead of the replacement.
Thank you. That I think that clarifies. I think that's an important clarification.
Okay, and then that brings us in line with the remainder of the library consortium around Chemeketa Regional.
It will bring us in line with everyone in this county. McMinnville is also currently fine-free. Jefferson, the others are trending that way.
Okay.
Whether we jump on the head of the line or they drag us kicking and screaming, it's probably going to happen.
Okay, thank
And
you.
this is for youth and adult fines, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Is everybody okay now with? Everybody understands.
Call for the question.
Yeah. Okay, since discussion's over, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
Opposed?
Opposed.
I have Roden and Job in opposition. It's a 4-2 win, 4-2 for passage. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, I think it's to you now.
So much for moving things along promptly, Patrick. Sorry. Okay, I am here to talk about our recruiting for a new city manager. Back in December, you hired WBCP, known to you as Wendy Brown, to do the recruitment for the city manager. Wendy has reached out to all of you individually, many stakeholders that were identified by you, and also has asked for public input regarding what we want and the process to hire a new city manager. Today, I just want to review what that outline was and have you take official action to adopt it, and also a last call for public comment. So in your packets, there was a memo that outlined all of the steps taken, but quickly I'll just go over that. On March 22nd today, we plan to have an executive session in which we'll narrow the applicant list to somewhere, and these are kind of like guesstimates that we put in here, but 5 to 10 for the first interview day, right? And then on April 1st, the first interview day will take place with 2 panels of people that are staff and community members, but none of you are on that day. After April 1st, that list will be narrowed down again for interviews with you all on April 2nd. Those will be done by Zoom, and at the end of that day, you'll determine how many and who you want to bring back for in-person interviews on April 18th. And 19th if you need it. It's a placeholder, but 18th and 19th of April. Once we conclude those, Wendy will do a formal background on the person that you identify as your top applicants, or applicant. It could be 1 or 2, probably 1, hopefully at that point. And on May 10th, that will be announced as to who that person was if the background goes well and we're still on track. So I would ask if there's any questions about that process? Yes.
The panels, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The panels, the staff and community members, can we sit in on those and listen?
I don't think so.
I don't know the answer to the question.
I'm pretty sure that not.
Why not?
I think we can ask Wendy that, but I don't think that we can.
Sorry, I didn't know the answer.
I have a question too. Since we're not going to, did I
You're fine.
usurp you?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Since we're not going to be on either of those panels or be able to sit in on them, we do want to have the input from them so we know what those panelists' opinions and decisions were
Yes,
before the April 2nd meeting.
yes.
What happens if we do not find anybody acceptable from the candidates presented?
Oh, I don't think that's an option.
Now we have to look
Honestly,
for police chief.
It has to be an option.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't know.
didn't see it written in here where we fall back. If we cannot find a person with this round of applicants, we have to try again.
Yeah, it would be considered a failed recruitment if you were unable to find the person you wanted, and we would start over. I have known it to happen.
Right.
I don't anticipate it in this recruitment.
It could happen.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is there any public comment that needs to be made regarding this? And again, I don't see a rush to the microphone, so we have now received public comment, and we need to officially approve this, folks, so that we have all our paperwork in line. So if someone would please make a motion, I would appreciate it. Go ahead.
I move to adopt the hiring procedures, standards, criteria, and policy directives as presented by staff, and with the caveat that we will be able to, as a council and mayor, see the results from the first two panels before making a decision.
I think that was, yes, that's fine. I got a motion. I need a second, please.
Second.
Have a second, a motion, second, discussion.
I have a question, actually.
Please
In,
Councilor Martin Willis. Go ahead.
in the staff memo, it mentioned on May 10th that we'd announce a final candidate, and then contract negotiations would follow. We're not going to announce that until after the negotiations, correct? That's not, I don't think that's actually what the recruitment framework says. So I just want to clarify that.
What I was told was that it would be announced at a council meeting, that you would have to take official action at a council meeting before we could enter those negotiations. So I believe that is,
We'll work with the search firm to
yeah,
get.
that is what I.
Because I recall the situation in the past where
Yeah.
we started negotiating and that fell apart.
Yeah,
And so, yeah. So I guess we'll ask that question.
yeah, and I'm sure that we'll finesse that. I'm not concerned that that'll.
Okay.
be a
And
problem.
then also for what I said earlier, where in here does it read anywhere if we have a failed recruitment process? We just can't.
That would be April 18th, I would say. Once you've had your in-person, if you can't come to a decision, that just happens. I mean,
Yeah, you don't have to write it down. We can just say we don't have one, and then we go back. I understand your thought. Okay, I have a motion, a second. We've had discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. Fisher, a couple of things from you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I have a couple of awards for you this evening. Both of these are housekeeping items because the projects both exceed the purchase authority of the city manager. Both projects are identified in the capital improvement plan and are part of the current budget. Agenda item 3 is the corrosion control improvement contract. The project need is due to raw water from the wells, have low pH, low alkalinity, and high hardness. The project will collect water data, review alternatives for treatment, prepare a preliminary design report for the Oregon drinking water folks, review and receive conditional approval from them to finalize the design, construction improvements, and then we'll do a 12-month monitoring period of how the system is performing. That will result in a report that's submitted to Oregon Drinking Water, and we'll submit as-built and receive a final approval from the state on the system. The costs do not include the cost of construction, but they do carry the project through to completion. It's the engineering portion of it and contract administration. And we've provided a suggested motion for the contract award. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions
I
for
do.
the presenter?
Just for my own knowledge, the pH and the alkalinity, does that have anything to do with how hard our water is? And could this possibly move towards a resolution to how hard our water is?
Yes, so there's hardness, the pH and alkalinity, what it actually is doing over long term is it degrades the copper in the system. That's one of the reasons why we're having copper lines breaking and having to change them out over to PE pipes, plastic pipes. And so this is to help treat the water to stop that kind of internal attack that's going on in the system. And then as part of the water master plan that's currently underway, we're going to look at some of the other issues related to taste and any odor. It's real common in well water to have variations in these. And so you just have to find the right treatment for those to take them out.
I'm happy with the taste, I just don't want my dishwasher to break.
Additional questions,
Yes.
please.
On the change orders, is there any governing level of how much of a change order can be brought without council approval?
As long as it's within the budgeted amount of the project.
And these both say that work is to be done or will be done within 6 months. That's doable?
Yes, and
Thank
that
you.
will get us to the point of construction to actually get the improvements underway, and then we have a whole nother year of monitoring. We need to see how the system's working and do any tweaks or adjustments so that it's operating well.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for explaining a technical. Okay, this is an action item, and if I could have a motion, that would be good.
I move to accept the proposal for engineering services in the not-to-exceed amount of $54,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the contract and any change orders within the existing project budget.
Motion, second by Morton. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Second one, agenda item 7.4, this is the 9th Street Pump Station improvements. This project is needed. It's one of the high priority projects in the master plan you just passed. And the reason is because the pump is reaching its capacity with all the development in the south end of town. The project will increase the existing capacity of the pump station. A new power service will be installed, a new backup generator, new electrical and system controls will be installed. The design has already been completed and it's been approved by DEQ. We're ready to go on it. The costs do not include construction, but they do carry the project through to completion. The project is currently funded through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, the same fund that paid for Riverview Pump Station and the recycled water pump station. And the staff has provided a suggested motion.
Questions? This is an action item, please.
I move to accept the proposal for construction engineering services in the not-to-exceed amount of $92,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the contract and any change orders within the existing project budget.
A motion,
Second
second by Job. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council announcements. We have announcements before we, yes, sir.
Independence Days is looking to have a staff booth like they've had in years past, and we're asking counselors to help staff that booth. So if any counselors are interested, please let me know. It'll be probably, Karen, what do you think? It's not going to be a whole day, right? It's going to be a portion of the day, I believe? Yeah. So we'll come up with some shifts, some equitable shifts, and if people want to do it, it'd be great to have you out there.
Great. Additional
And
announcements?
I offer my regrets ahead of time. I will be out of town through the 4th of July and a little beyond.
How convenient.
Well, I think it's the 30 years prior.
Well,
you.
I just want to say it can actually be great fun working that city.
Yes, it can.
So I would encourage folks to join Shannon and
Thank you.
I there.
There you go. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to, I have my script here. We're going to go to executive session for the purpose of consideration of the employment of a city manager. What we'll do is I'll read the official pieces of paper, then we will retire to the, we're going to take a bathroom break, and then we'll go, we're going to be in the upstairs conference room and on the 3rd floor, and we will meet there. And after we're done meeting, we will recess the executive session. We'll come back into this room and say adjourn, okay? That's what we're going to do. The Independent City Council will now meet in executive session for the purpose of consideration of employment of a city manager. The executive session held pursuant to ORS 1926602A, which allows the council to meet in executive session. Representative of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions will be made in executive session. At this time, the council will adjourn to the conference room for the duration of the executive session. At the end of the executive session, we'll return to the open session in the council chambers. No decisions will be made after the close of the executive session. Without objection, can we do this and be upstairs at 25 past? Is that okay for everybody?
Is this the conference room outside the?
No, it's.
We're going to go inside, okay.
Yeah, staff will let you in.
Okay.
So at 25 after, we'll reconvene? Okay, we're in recess till we get up there. Thank you.
Can we leave our stuff here?
Okay.